at cryptokermit _ Kermit said, I don't know if this is true, but let's just, no investment advice. 60% of all meme coin traders lost money trading meme coins. 4.7 made no money. 24% made less than $100. So maybe if you combine the 60 and 24, 11.2 made more than 100. 3% made more than 1,000. So really, 97%
Power
made less
laws,
than
baby.
1,000. Yeah, 0.5 made more than 10,000. So there you go.
I no longer regret saying, I'm happy with my life choices.
Yeah. Like who is your counterpart? And that's like, for this stuff, it's like there are really sophisticated people, obviously, that the tools that people use to trade this stuff now, like you have Telegram native wallets, and you'll get like, you can set the parameters for Telegram bots to say like, hey, this just launched, here's the name, here's the symbol, here's the like, so there's all these parameters that people who spend a lot of time understanding this stuff can figure out and can tell at a glance, like this one has, less potential to just be a complete dildo chart as we've referenced before.
It's high frequency trading, right? High frequency trading for meme coins.
All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You got Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. Gang is back, full episode. Good to have you back, Jack. People were going mad for it last week. Your appearance, it's good to have. The vibe shift, as Trung was just saying as we were recording, the vibe shift has changed. Not just on the NI podcast,
they're like, oh my God, the vibe is changing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like Trump back in office? They're like, no. You guys got the gang back together in NIA. That's what we're talking about. I'm like, oh, okay. I like that. Well, Bilal, what are we teeing up today?
We got a lot to talk about. I mean, we're going to do deep edge of the internet, all the crazy stuff going on. But before that, we're going to talk about the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight on Netflix. Hopefully you guys, I want to talk about if you stayed up for it or not, because I fell asleep. I was waiting for it for hours and then fell asleep, then woke up halfway through. We'll talk about UFC as well, that moment there at Madison Square Garden. I was lucky enough to go there. It was really fun. It felt like a moment in time, boys, seeing Trump, Elon Musk.
It must have been insane,
the whole crew.
Dude.
Yeah.
Was the security insane? Was security just insane?
Yeah, there was definitely Secret Service as we walked in. And just, it was pretty locked down.
Although getting into MSG is already pretty locked down, right? Like for any event.
So, yeah, they just search your stuff. Yeah, you have to go through the metal detector stuff or whatever. But yeah, so we'll get onto that. And then obviously on the edge of the internet stuff to give people, there's a lot of bullish stuff going on. So we're going to talk about the infinite money glitch, a spot Bitcoin ETF options beginning on NASDAQ.
You know what's going to happen?
On Binance.
What's going to happen?
Go on.
Somebody's going to comment with the time tag to when we talk about infinite money glitches. That's going to be the only thing that people listen to.
Oh, that's true. But yeah, so I've got like 8 things saved. So we'll see how many of these we get to.
Okay, if we have any times at the end, I would like to talk about Cirque du Soleil. So I saw a show over the weekend. Oh, sick. And I took my son. I couldn't believe how fucking good it was. I forgot how good Cirque du Soleil was, man. You guys all seen Cirque, right?
I went to one. They did a country one in Nashville.
Oh my God.
That must be sick.
I went with George Mack and Chris Williamson.
You guys went together. Oh, yeah, I remember you saying you were going to that.
It was good. It was good.
Dude, I'm picturing you,
three English guys. That's incredible. Incredible, man. All right, so let's get straight into it. Did you guys have a meme in the week? I know Jack had this one. Jack, do you want to plug your one? Here we go.
Oh, man, dude. Okay, pull up Jack's. I forgot. There's so many good Tyson ones. I'll pull up the good Tyson one.
Go ahead, pull up a Tyson one. Then we've got a bonus one from Jack for the
dude, here it is.
Glitch one.
Look, did we talk about the boy Ram Capital last week? Because he had probably my favorite Mike Tyson one. Do you guys see Rams?
You guys see so many of them. I probably have. Yeah,
that was the highlight.
Okay, hold on a second. Here we go. Oh my God. I mean, dude, this might get banned. I might have to ask Rafa to blur out Tyson's ass here. But we're teeing up Tyson's ass for people that didn't watch it. So here we go. Read the caption.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Wow, read the caption.
Great. Remote works at 8:58 a.m. before 9 a.m. Teams meeting.
Bro,
that's so good.
Let me live commentate.
That's so good.
So the joke here is that the entire time the feed's buffering because Netflix doesn't really do live 60 million. Look at the cameraman. The cameraman realizes naked ass, starts zooming into his upper body. It's the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. All right, that's the meme of the week. Thanks to Ramp Capital, friend of the pod. All right, there we go. God. Stop the share. Jesus, we're going to get demonetized.
So we do want to talk mostly about edge of the internet stuff, but let's talk about Tyson Jake Paul, because did you guys watch the fight, I assume?
Yes.
Yeah, I had to turn it off halfway through. I turned it off halfway through.
So you turned the fight off? That's a 16-minute fight.
I can't participate in this.
Yeah,
I can't be giving my eyeballs to it. I can't be running the metrics up.
That's a fair point.
It off.
All right, let me ask you, Jack, unpack that. Why can you not run the metrics? What was going on with this fight that made you feel you could not run the metrics up?
It was like, I don't know. There's this, obviously you got the tin hat theory circulating that it was a staged fight and Tyson's natural ability would have had him come out on top regardless of his age. But it seemed kind of obvious he was just too old to be in there. And it was like, it just felt ridiculous watching it after about the third or fourth round. I was like, there's only one way this is going, and I'm not hanging around to find out.
Did you go elder? Did you ever feel elder abuse? Like, did that ever cross your mind?
That when he was hobbling
people
around.
Talk about that all the time.
I think like, you know what's funny is like the cuts of the training stuff 3 months ago, 4 months ago, you're like, oh my God, he's going to get annihilated. Like, Jake Paul's going to get murdered here. And then
you forget that's 12 seconds versus
yeah. And then you think about like the actual event itself. You're like, yeah, maybe this probably shouldn't have happened actually. Like respect, obviously, Mike Tyson, unbelievable athlete at any age, but it's like, it's just such a ridiculous mismatch. And the kind of, I guess the internal realization is like, I'm the mug that fell for this along with 60 million other people. We're the marks here. Those boys are laughing.
Is that how many people watched it in the end?
Yeah,
you guys know the final number?
65 million concurrent, but 60 is the number that Jack told like across. And this was kind of poetic to Jack's point. They split a $60 million bag.
There you go.
So 40 went to Jake because he was a promoter. Also, we need to talk about, I mean, we'll get into it. I want to get Bilal's reaction first. He said he fell asleep. But Jake Paul, as a marketer promoter, S tier. This guy is
insane.
Dude, unbelievable.
The brothers,
to play the
man.
heel. Yeah, unbelievable. Listen, you can criticize the shit of them. You can, because they've done some pretty sketchy shit. But they realized it. They understand this game. And I actually had a larger attention point to ask Jack about this and to bring to Jack. We'll talk about that in a sec. But Bilal, I want your reaction when you fell asleep.
Well, because I was waiting for it, and I forgot the two women who fought, but that was actually a sick fight.
That was an amazing fight.
I forgot their names off the top of my head, but they were amazing. That was definitely the best.
Taylor Serrano.
That one, exactly. Yeah. So that was definitely the fight of the night, I think. But I was waiting for it for ages. I was watching it in the living room. I was going to meet people out to watch it, and I'm glad I didn't. And then watching the living room, was getting sleepy, went to bed, was like just watching on my phone. And then I basically fell asleep with one AirPod in, waiting for it, and realizing I woke up in the second round. So I was just about staying awake because I was like, man, I've waited all this time.
It was 11:58 when they fought for you. That's right, because I'm on the West Coast. I actually tried to keep my son up. He goes to sleep around 8. I'm like, F it. Like, my son's never going to experience boxing, right? This is like a moment. Like, it was like he didn't never watch boxing. He's like, oh, he was excited. He does taekwondo, and like he's like, I want to watch this. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. 8:30. I'm like, all right, you're going to sleep too. They're like, as Jack said, my realization that we were getting mugged was like during the Serrano Taylor fight, because they said 8 p.m. There's always an undercard, you get that, but we waited 3.5 hours to get to Tyson Paul. And the entire time they're having buffering issues. That was the thing, right? A lot of people had buffering issues. The down detector showed the website was down. Like the clearest thing, which the running joke was like, it was like Tyson's ass was the clearest, highest like resolution thing. The entire time.
But I have a question for you guys on that, because one was about how does it compare to normal pay-per-view numbers, but secondly is what is your general take on how Netflix did it? Because I think when we discussed this months ago when it was announced, we said, well, this is a chance for them to open up to a wider audience and really like maybe do things slightly differently. In my opinion, they basically just took what already is done on the pay-per-view side and just kind of applied it to streaming. They didn't really adjust too much. The only thing I remember is they were promoting their shows in the crowd by having those actors. They would have like the Cobra Kai guy. I thought that was like
Cobra
a tiny,
Kai guys? That was cool.
Yeah, it was a tiny little innovation. But I mean, you do that anyway, right? Like famous people in the crowd. But in terms of like, you know, people waiting around, not knowing what time it's actually going to start, and all the normal hype stuff, there wasn't any real like Netflix style stuff that was different. So that's my only question is, how could they have done it differently potentially?
No, I think the moment I think this was the biggest, like, I'm basing this purely off of, I mean, you guys were chatting on WhatsApp about the meme kind of moment about it. That thing creating a singular event, this is the best they've ever done. Whether or not the actual product was good, like the last time I remember something this level was Tom Brady roast, right? And I didn't even know the Tom Brady roast was happening. I just saw the memes coming on the timeline, and then I turned on Netflix. That was a live event. And I mean, let's go 50,000 foot about what the purpose of this was. Why is Netflix getting into live? The best person, obviously, on this topic is Ben Thompson. We talked about his view on this before. Actually, what is the purpose of content for Netflix, right? It's marketing, retention, and acquisition. And these massive events, they're acquisition-led, like these singular events. The other live ones that were big were Tom Brady roast, do you guys watch Love is Blind?
Oh yeah, phenomenal.
So did you guys watch the live Love is Blind reunion on Netflix?
Yeah, and they did it like a few years ago where they messed up, It
messed up, right?
Yeah, I remember watching that. And then this year, I think now they just launch it as the last episode. They didn't do it live, I don't think this time. I don't think so.
When it was live though, you wanted to watch it, right?
Yeah, because it was that moment, and then it was a bit of a disappointment in the end because of the messed up.
So people talk
timing.
about that was a big mess up. They said the Brady roast went well, but Brady roast is US centric, right? There's 20 million people. Like Tyson is global.
I was actually surprised by that. They did an amazing job. I thought that was probably the most successful one. And also, if you just think comedy really quickly, there's not that much to be gained doing it live, because if you just wait, you know, a day or whatever, they can do the edit. And the edit makes comedy so much better, you know. But they actually did it at such a high level that it actually worked well.
But this is why I thought going into Paul Tyson that it's a big challenge. I think they underestimated how much they did. And we got to plug X here, people. First of all, X as the meme generator, incredible. But why is X amazing? The experts that chime in. The former CTO of CBS actually gave his analysis on why the stream went bad on Netflix. So I forgot his name. Rafa, I'll send you the link. You can just pull it up. But he basically said, listen, I'll explain to you why Netflix's feed went wrong. And he said they will fix it by Christmas Day. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but Netflix paid $150 million to host 2 NFL games. And I'm sure we'll be watching. And Beyonce is going to do the halftime show for Texans versus Ravens. Massive, right? Like, Netflix is going all in on this because they have this big advertising tier. So they have 280 million global subscribers, 70 million on this advertising tier. And as Bilal knows, you need eyeballs. Blah. Why are these events the most lucrative for advertisers?
Because I guess in general advertising, the one thing that still works is live sports on TV as well, right? So yeah, because people have to be there for you. It's not the same as watching the fight the next day. Like you already know what happened by then. So I think that's the main thing. You're going to be there live, and people are going to see the ads more than when you're on DVR. You can like fast forward and stuff like that for other stuff.
Exactly. So there's that part. So the CTO of CBS basically said this. The difficulty is like live streaming is a massive challenge, right? It's very different than just a watch as you go, as we typically do with Netflix, because it's a live stream. So you're chopping up the video on the fly, and then you're sending it to everybody's device, which have different requirements for transcoding, the type of bandwidth you're using, if you're using fiber, Wi-Fi, like it's totally different, all happening real time. And he basically said that he saw Netflix's, how he would diagnose this is Netflix host a lot of their content on AWS. But when you're doing this type of stuff, you're dealing with people like Fastly and Akami, which is like content delivery networks at the edge. And it seems like Netflix hasn't ironed out that issue yet. And you remember this fight was supposed to happen over the summer, Tyson Paul, but Tyson noted afterwards, and this is when Jack had mentioned at the top that he couldn't participate in this. When I read Tyson's tweet after the fight, he basically said, listen, I almost died in the summer. I had a massive blood transfusion, basically took out half my blood. And I'm like, okay, I read that. I'm like, okay, well, now this actually does sound like elder abuse. Like, what are you doing getting in the ring, right? Because you can tell after 30 seconds.
with that young girl.
Oh, yeah.
That was so funny, man. That was.
I don't know if
Could you guys
saw,
explain what it was for people who didn't watch it?
Yeah, tell them.
Well, I don't know, some teenage girl was interviewing him and was like, "Oh, what are you excited about the fight? Like, you think you're gonna win?" He's like, "I'm nothing. You're nothing. The universe is a blip. Our existence is meaningless."
It turned into like a stoic master.
Yeah. And she was
God.
like, "Right, okay."
No, her reaction's like, "God, I didn't think about that."
Yeah. She was great. She was great, but he was just being real.
I'll just tie up the CTO of CBS. So after Rafa tells his name, sorry, shout out to the dude, but he basically said they'll figure it out. But the Tyson, the fight was going to happen over the summer, which would have given them 3-4 months to iron out these issues. Now they got 6 weeks. So the running joke now, I'll tell you one thing. On Christmas Day, everyone will be watching Netflix Christmas. And I think half the people watching is waiting to make memes about whether or not the stream will crash. Because the joke level here, because people forget NFL, the biggest thing in the history of mankind, right? Whatever. We showed that stat a couple months ago. 98 of the top 100 live events were all NFL games, right? So, like, this is going to be massive for Netflix. Tie it back to Ben Thompson. We can wrap up this bit until we want to talk about Jake Paul's marketing. But yeah, it's about acquisition for the ad tier. And if you think about it, they'll spend $200 million on a film like Red Notice, which I've never seen. Have you guys seen Red Notice? Like no. Chris Rock? Like, yeah. It's their biggest movie ever by their metrics, apparently. Never seen it. But they spent $200 million on that. Granted, you could watch it again, but I don't know who's really watched that movie again. 60 mil for this for Paul and Tyson. I think the undercard, those female fighters got 15 million total. 60 mil is not that crazy to do for Netflix, which does I think their operating profit is like $5-6 billion a year.
But I think they also, because this was the first one, right? Like people were, we're going to tune into this one. Like if they did 10 more of these and it was the same and the buffering issues and it wasn't a really good fight. Yeah, they're going to figure it
out, man.
No, but I'm saying the opposite too. Like a lot of people made the effort for this one. I'm wondering, there's a retention thing there as well. Like how many people will actually tune into the next one.
The NFL is going to be the massive challenge, right? Because if they mess up the NFL one, that's going to be a huge issue. And the thing I would say about the NFL one, why it's so important is because NFL is the largest media brand in the world. It just straight up is, right? It's a $20 billion a year business. No other media company touches that. So just as a single media asset, NFL is the biggest. If they mess that up, that's going to be a huge problem because next year, you remember they have a 10-year, I think $5 billion deal with WWE. They're going to start doing Monday Night Raw and Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, which are pay-per-view events. And then they might bid on UFC. So, that's crazy, right? Which is actually a good segue. We could probably talk about that shortly because Bilal went to the MSG fight. But $1.5 billion over 5 years is what ESPN's paying UFC right now. So that could be up. So let me tie this up by saying on the Jake Paul stuff. So actually, Bilal, you'd asked about largest pay-per-view. Largest pay-per-view event ever was Floyd Mayweather Pacquiao. Do you guys watch that?
Yeah.
You guys watched that, right? 2015.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that was 5 million pays.
5 million paying though, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're paying what, like $50 per pass?
Say 3x. Say 50 million people watch. This fight for Paul Tyson 3-4 times bigger, right? Like, dude, this fight was on par with the first Biden-Trump debate.
Yeah, I remember when we did this, when we covered this, we said it will probably be the biggest fight of all time, just in pure number terms, because anyone can log in to their Netflix account. But yeah, so that is pretty wild. That is pretty wild.
Let's talk about Jake Paul. So, what are you guys' thoughts about the pivot to becoming the ultimate heel, incredible promoter?
Jack, you're the man for this.
I mean, these guys know the attention game like no other, right? And I was also thinking about Tyson. Why Tyson is such an unbelievable pick is like how many generations know who Mike Tyson is. Like you talk about like the max amount of saturation of people who care about this. Or
that's
like
a great point.
Literally like you could have the two best fighters in the world and you're not getting 60 million people to watch it because they don't. No.
Yeah, because you've got the old crowd that are thinking of that nostalgic, we want the dog and him come out and take down the biggest heel. And then you've got even a younger generation who've seen him on podcasts, heard these stories, but never even watched him.
The Hangover.
Oh my God, I forgot he was in The Hangover too. Yeah,
yeah. He's been a meme for a long time.
There's that amazing tweet. Some guys like, if Tyson loses tonight, I'm going to lose a part of my childhood. It'd be like if Mr. Beast crossed over Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
no,
do you know? It also there's a bunch of people who only know him for being the meme with Hasbullah. You know, like the little guy. They're like, oh, that guy's the guy who thought Hasbullah was a real kid, and it's like, no, he's Mike Tyson. And
people don't realize. Mike Tyson was literally one of the. Might have been the most famous person in the world in the late
that time,
80s,
right? Insane.
It is like when boxing was big. He was at the end of when boxing was the biggest thing in the world, and he was just, dude, this guy bit off Evander Holyfield's ear. Right, and then there's a.
Did you guys hear that in the going into the fight? They had Holyfield there and Lennox Lewis, I think. And they made that joke. They were talking about, I hope he doesn't bite someone's ear. Like, it was pretty jokes. I mean, he was, you see right at the end where Jake Paul was like bowing down to him, right? He was like,
somebody's like Tyson could have done the funniest thing in the history.
I mean, that would have worked. All right, should we move on to the next topic? Because we got a lot to get to.
Yeah, let's talk about, tell us about, you went to the UFC fight, which also got memed like crazy. Tell us about
I would say, did you guys watch this fight?
No, I saw the highlights of John Jones, Johnny Bones.
What a legend. Probably the GOAT. I don't actually know that much about UFC, but it was incredible experience. First time, energy was wild. Just, really, really cool event. Started at like 5 p.m. dinner, ended up at 3 a.m. home, sort of. But that was just the fight, finished late. And then I didn't even stay out till after. Apparently the guys I was with got a text at like 4:30 because they were working with his team on some ad stuff, and so they were trying to
whose team?
With John Jones. So
they're working with John Jones?
Yeah, they did a whole ad with him recently. It was pretty cool just to get their insight into what it was like working with him and all.
Give us some breakdown.
No, I think he's just an interesting guy because even though for UFC fans, they know him as one of the best, if not the best. Joe Rogan calls him the best fighter of all time, he thinks. But he's also this interesting, fun character. So, there's this, but he's also at the end of his career kind of thing. So that's kind of all I know about it. But you saw at the end, he kind of did the Trump dance. He went over to Trump.
Oh my God, dude.
He was like saying, I'm a proud American champion and I'm a Christian champion. So like, really leaning into that.
Like start doing the America chant, right?
Yeah. Oh, there was a few of those for sure. Yeah.
Well, dude, tell us about. So you actually DM'd. You WhatsApped us when Trump walked into the building with Elon and dude. People also didn't see this. So if you saw the seating, it was Trump, Elon. Next to Trump, on the other side was the head of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, the $1 trillion fund. And we talked about Live Golf and PGA potentially enemies now merging. There's a big antitrust case on that. And then next to Elon was Kid Rock and Ari Emanuel. It was like the WME head. These guys are just absolute powerhouses, man. Dude, of like media, politics. So tell us about Bilal when they rolled in. What was the energy?
Yeah, it was wild because I've seen the videos before when Trump comes in and everyone goes wild. But this one felt like an actual moment in time because from what I heard, there's 2 UFC events every year that are this big. One at MSG, I think one in Vegas. This was obviously between him being announced as president and then starting in January. The first time he's coming to this event. You saw him going over to Rogan after and like that little moment there. He's hugging him, being like, we did it sort of thing. But yeah, and also being in New York, which is obviously a very traditional Democrat state or city. Obviously UFC is not, right? Like UFC is very red, obviously. So it was just, it just felt like this energy shift in a way. And to see, it was RFK, Tulsi, you guys have seen the picture of them on the plane, right? Eating McDonald's.
Oh my God, dude.
That was probably a meme of the week. Memes. I'm going to pull up one. Have you guys have got a good one for this one?
Tee up what happened. Give people the background.
I've just got it on, this was like a random one I saved. I
got a lot, dude.
On Instagram, but making the new gang member do drugs to make sure he's not an undercover cop because RFK is obviously, Mr. Health, not eating seed oils, and he's got like his McDonald's there with a Coke and everyone's cracking up.
Zoom in on his face.
I was trying to zoom in. It's not letting me zoom in for some reason. So, but yeah,
all right, we're not going to get super political here, but RFK got announced as the Secretary of the Human and Health Services. Pretty controversial because he's got views left and right. Some of them spot on, some of them less. But the whole point is that he's on the plane here with Elon, Trump, Don Jr., and Mike Johnson, the House Republican leader. And we couldn't see the face, but Bilal, the one you pulled up, 10 out of 10.
Rafa, you could zoom in on the face
I got
here.
the other one because RFK's he's eating a Big Mac, 10 nuggets and fries, and you know that. He literally said, because his movement is make America healthy again, right? Maha. And then the Don Jr. went on a podcast after. He's like, yeah, the joke was Maha starts on Monday.
Tomorrow, yeah.
So, I got one more for you guys before we can wrap this part up, but this one killed me, dude. So it's a photo, the caption around Trump, Elon, and Don Jr. The boys posting a group pic at the strip club, and then the caption of RFK Jr. The dude who told his wife he was at poker night.
His face just looks so awkward.
I got a boy, a friend of the pod, Adam Singer. He did look how they massacred my boy, and he zoomed in on RFK's face, and then the Wojak crying face under the mask. Unbelievable stuff, man. Unbelievable.
It did really feel like watching it on X, because I obviously wasn't on Twitter the whole night, but was it just taking over the feed that night?
The John Jones was.
Yeah.
When he did the Trump dance and pointed at him. Just unbelievable.
The dance is so funny that even Pulisic, the soccer player, the American, I think he's the captain, he did it as well. And I
gotta find that, man.
Funny.
The dance, and what was the other one? Was all John Jones, and then them rolling in. There's a bunch of Elon ones. He was laughing on his phone, and then Trump told him to get off the phone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry," which people were laughing.
Yeah, I think the joke was he's laughing at this meme right now because it's like a video of him. But anyway, so there was a lot of interesting things. Yeah, definitely was cool to be there. Like it felt like a moment in time, and cool to see that kind of. Yeah, just to experience that all was really, really cool, man. Really sick.
Dude,
definitely
I couldn't believe you were there, man. Dude, that was amazing, man. Thanks for breaking that down.
Yeah, thanks to the guys who took me out. They hooked it up real nice, man. All right, should we talk about edge of the internet here?
Yeah, let's get into it. This is the Jack Butcher segment.
There we go. Jack, where should we start? Should we start with infinite money glitch? Saylor buys another $4 billion of Bitcoin. This is like yesterday or today. So I'll just read out.
He bought it last week and announced it.
Oh, got
Monday.
it. Okay. Yeah, we showed last week SaylorTracker.com. MicroStrategy has acquired almost 52,000 Bitcoin for $4.6 billion at 88.6K per Bitcoin, and Bitcoin yield of 20.4% quarter to date, 41.8% year to date. Just in, obviously everything's up. They're looking like geniuses right now. What did you want to explain on the infinite money glitch, Jack?
Well, just how they've been funding their purchases of Bitcoin through all these different, and I will not do this financial instrumentation justice, but essentially the value of MicroStrategy is rocketing with the increasing price of Bitcoin, which allows them to go and borrow money at cheaper and cheaper rates to buy more Bitcoin. And that's the essence of the infinite money glitch, is you're borrowing money at zero or close to, and buying Bitcoin that is appreciating at a rate much greater than zero currently. And the debt obligation is so minimal compared to what the Bitcoin principal is worth that they just keep rolling the strategy over and over and over again. I think their position, I just looked it up, is like they're up 14.5 billion on their Bitcoin purchases so far. And like, as we discussed last week, it's like, there's conversations happening at state and sovereign and country level about strategic Bitcoin reserves. I think MicroStrategy owns 1.5% of the supply of Bitcoin right now. Something, if not that, very close to that, which starts to bring up conversations with like, is there some like legitimate like risk in the consolidation of that much of it? And centralization, quote unquote, under one.
Laughing at that because that is definitely seems like there could be some risk. Yeah. Is that why you're laughing, Frank?
Well, no. Well, Jack, I mean, it says right in your point, right? Like this infinite money glitch works as long as it keeps going up. Like that, there is a glitch, right? That is. But to Jack's exact point, like he talks about this all the time. Sailor's like, listen, I'm getting to borrow at whatever 3-4% right now. And he's like, so I messaged you guys. So for the listeners, every now and then one of us will be randomly listening to a Sailor podcast because I don't know all this guy does is go on podcasts. This guy does he creates
As
30 hours
he even
of podcast
yeah.
material. He'll go on literally any podcast and we can attest to that. But I listened to him on the Core of the Raven podcast, QTR, and I sent these guys a message which was just made me I was in tears. So Sailor was talking because he came up with this new analogy I'd never heard. He's like, why Bitcoin's pretty simple. What about will other cryptos that are more complicated like outdo it? And he's like, look at the humans versus an amoeba. An amoeba is a bacteria that has lasted 5 billion years. And he's like, look at humans. We're so complicated, we're so complex, but a peanut can take us down. Some people that's allergic to a peanut that can kill them. He's like, complexity is not always better. So that's what he did. I sent it to these guys. I'm like, I never heard that, and I'm crying right now.
He says it with such conviction that it just works.
It's just such conviction. But Jack, to your point, he in that thing, he actually talked about what Bilal said. Nation states start looking at this, maybe buying it. He goes, I'm more interested in the next company in the Russell 2000 that acquires. Russell 2000, people don't know, is like the outside the SP 500 or the Russell 1000, basically the 2000s to below largest companies. He's like, what company in that market cap range is going to execute the MicroStrategy balance sheet play here, which is you issue corporate debt and then you buy Bitcoin? Because this whole point, and a lot of people listening have heard him, he's like, where would you? The easiest mental or thought experiment he ever does is, if you wanted something to hold value in 100 years, what would it be? People don't have to agree with this, but this is what he says. He's like, if you do real estate, you could have the best property, oceanside property in Miami, or you buy Miami or Manhattan real estate, right? He's like, well, you're paying 1% to 2% a year in property taxes over a century. That you're going to lose 100% of value in that sense. You're paying it out just to keep that. Gold. He's like, look at the history of gold. Yes, sure, gold is ripping right now. It's about 40% this year. But if you look at the entire history of it, gold is actually a little bit inflationary because people do find new gold every year. We all know Bitcoin's capped at 21 million. And he's like, look at stocks. The average S&P 500 company will not be here in 100 years, right? The Meg 7, the top 7 companies in the world, the GAFAs, the NVIDIA's now has joined it, the Tesla has joined it. Will they be here in 100 years, right? He's like, he's asking you. He's doing Socratic method. He's like, okay, so what's going to actually be there? Is it Jack, what is the value of the US dollar in 100 years? What is it? 0. What is the purchasing power of the US dollar 100 years from now? It's gone down 99%. So he does this thought experiment, always comes back to Bitcoin. So he's like, I want to know, the nation states is much harder. You got to go through legislative bodies, outside of the Middle East. So my bet, just based on consuming lots of sailors, like Saudi or UAE is going to announce a massive buy for their balance sheets.
How likely do you think it is the US does the reserve thing that has been talked about?
Well, the game theory that he always says, I love one of you two to opine on the game theory, but I know Jack's thought about this too. But what is the game theory Sailor says? The game theory is this: somebody's going to announce a buy, not El Salvador, which has a couple hundred million. Somebody's going to announce a multi-billion-dollar buy of Bitcoin, and everyone knows it's going to happen. In the next couple of years, somebody will announce a multi-billion-dollar buy of Bitcoin, a sovereign will. So they know the price is going to jack up, so everybody else has to prepare for that. Jack, I know you've thought about this and you've read into it. Tell us what you think.
Do we talk about Jason Lowery ever? Soft War?
No.
Sounds familiar, but go on.
There's a guy, he's like I think lifetime military service, but now is like Space Force, like works in the Space Force. And he wrote a book about the importance of Bitcoin as a national security issue, which is basically overlaid on top of everything you just explained, is like, there's obviously a first mover advantage to this because of the finite supply of the thing. You don't have a central bank that can manipulate the supply of a currency and like apply leverage to other nations that way. And there's also game theory wise, like, why would you say you're acquiring this stuff? Like, unless you're El Salvador, where like your acquisition.
You mean before? You mean you'd say
exactly,
after.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if you're in a small position, but you have like the leverage of being a nation state, like in El Salvador, it makes sense to say that they're buying it, right? Because it's like that being like kind of the first over the dam. Like you make more money by using your position as a nation than you do allocating your capital. Does that make sense? Like if Saudi Arabia says we're going to start buying Bitcoin, everybody's going completely bonkers, right?
Yeah.
Because like they have an almost infinite amount of capital to allocate. And yeah, I have no idea how like the conversation happens at that level, but like people are drafting legislation. There's also this open source framework for creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't know if I sent it to you boys on the DMs, but that's like circulating now too, where
you're saying like a US government.
It was based in the States originally. And like basically like this boilerplate template for thinking about Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset for whatever scale of like state or private organization. So, I mean, the Saylor bet is, we've talked about it hundreds of hours now, is like, you look at the 25
we've talked about it hundreds of hours.
We have, right?
Yeah, probably.
Pretty much. Thought about it for thousands of hours, talked about it for hundreds.
Combined,
like, look at that chart.
Definitely.
I mean, I don't think he even probably predicted that these would be the conditions that he's like buying into now. It's insane. Like the way the conversation has changed around this and the legitimacy of it. And this other thing we we're going to talk about was like options getting approved to trade today, which is way deeper liquidity and like, you know, more sophisticated ways to hedge and play the crypto markets, which opens it up to a ton more capital, which is maybe more volatility, but ultimately more liquidity. And to think that it's doing this without all of that instrumentation, like I guess the bet that a lot of people are making because it's at that price point is like the more access capital gets to this thing, the more gets locked up in it. Very, very like, you know, this was kind of a like Saylor's CNBC appearances maybe over the last like 3 or 4 years. It's gone from like, oh, this is like super fringe topic and like a ridiculously difficult bet, or sorry, a ridiculously risky bet, to like, you know, candidates for the treasury personally holding hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin, which is like legitimizing on a level I don't think even a Michael Saylor would have thought would be the case 3 or 4 years from his first buys. Yeah. But it is.
And I think, Jack, to add to what you're saying, we were talking about the kind of people around Trump right now. Obviously, you know, there's a long way to go in a lot of these kind of discussions, but let's just say who's there. JD Vance, VP, owns a lot of Bitcoin himself and has talked about it very positively. RFK has been incredibly, you know, bullish on that. Who else is there that's kind of talked around it? Lutnick as well. We were just talking about that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's his?
Isn't he the highest? I've go to Polymarket. Let me see. Polymarket. Go ahead. I'll
what's
pull
his?
it up.
Yeah. What's his role?
Treasury.
That
Cantor Fitzgerald. He would be Treasury Secretaries in the running for.
That's it. Incredible.
Okay, so top odds right now. Oh, Kevin Walsh. Who is Kevin Walsh? 67% Kevin Walsh. Larry Fink, Big Daddy Fink is at 1%.
But I get so this is all obviously the bullish stuff. Towards the end, I do want to share some warning signs as well to keep it rounded out here, because there are some frothy things happening as well. I mean, you could argue the whole thing is, as we're recording this, by the way, I'm just looking at the price of Bitcoin, so if people know, we're recording this Tuesday, November 19th, 2024, so people know in the future, 93,846 is the current price I'm seeing right now for Bitcoin. I did want to also ask...
All-time high today, right?
Is that all-time high pretty much, right? It's not 94.
93 and a half, I think was, yeah.
And then, Jack, obviously we've talked a lot about, while Trunk's pulling up, about ETH in the past. So that's actually worth us discussing, because ETH is still hovering at, like 3,100. I I think the all-time high for ETH is like 4,000 or something around that number.
4,700, I think it tapped. Like back
47. Jesus Christ. So that was
what
the last cycle.
Insane days, man. Insane days.
But that's, yeah. So, I mean, but let's kind of talk. I kind of wanted to ask you guys where you think we are in the cycle right now, because we've talked about these 4-year cycles that traditionally have happened with the halving of Bitcoin. Normally what has happened in the past is Bitcoin pops, then the altcoins, including ETH, pops, all the meme coins this time round. Last time round, there was a lot of NFT stuff, as you guys, we obviously covered on the pod a lot. So like, to me, there's an interesting thing here with ETH specifically, Solana taking some of that mind share on the meme coin side, which, last cycle, if it even counts as, I guess that was 2021, all that was happening on Ethereum. This time round, a lot of that's happening on Solana. What's your thoughts specifically on ETH, Jack? Because I know obviously a lot of your work is done on that, on blockchain. So curious on your thoughts.
Well, I think that is the main narrative, is like all of the cost to transact on Solana as a like smart contract platform, as a like alternative to Ethereum, in the sense that Bitcoin is just this store of value and that's it. We did cover a little bit about the like non-fungible experiments on top of Bitcoin, like the people are building stuff in that vein, but Solana has definitely attracted way more capital and new entrants, because in 2021 you're paying like $200-300 on these gas fees to like mint NFTs or so, like this. The transaction fee was just insane. So the congestion on the network, and like technically speaking, there's trade-offs that need to occur in order to make a blockchain cheap, right? So you're sacrificing decentralization or security or like neutrality in some way. And that's like the prevailing narrative of Ethereum, is like the most credibly neutral smart contract infrastructure. And I'm not technically qualified to speak to why that is versus like the nuances of a Solana, but the like decisions of like funds like BlackRock to build funds and infrastructure on Ethereum, that has been the early has been like maybe the early signs of legitimization at that scale. Or like a Coinbase, the L2 that we talked about last year.
Base, yeah.
Base, they shipped on Ethereum, and the L2 meme right now is like all this liquidity gets fractured across these L2s, so you have to bridge your Ethereum from L1 to Base, and then there's some projects and things that happen on Base, and then this other L2 is having this other project or this other activity, so you need to bridge your ETH back from there to here to there. So obviously the user experience with that is just, for the average person, it's like, if I can participate in the same ideas over on like a Solana, it's a no-brainer for a lot of people to do that.
Yeah, it's just a lot easier to use.
Yeah, and the real argument for the long-term value of ETH is this much more robust, trustless, credibly neutral infrastructure. And the guys like Ethereum Foundation, the guys that develop this and roll out the roadmap for it, go into conferences and saying stuff like, here's our 10-year roadmap for this thing. The market just hates stuff like that, right? It's like, this, we want
we've already been
you
10
to tell
years.
us that it's perfect now, and everything that you have planned is already accounted for. And so that's really the discussion around it, is like the short-term UX benefits of a Solana versus Ethereum are incredibly obvious.
Yeah.
And the long-term vision for Ethereum is the infrastructure has to be built in a different way to maintain its neutrality at scale. And there are some decisions being made by like big market play. I think there's some website, I'll have to pull it up, because a lot of the Ethereum commentators have just been getting destroyed on the timeline for the last 6 months, 12 months, because the ETH BTC chart is just brutal. It's just like bleeding out against Bitcoin. as like a, you know, straight up store of value. And that also has a lot to do with like, remember the conversation we had with Sailor where it's like, it's not finished. Like there's that much uncertainty baked in it just by the fact that like there are these proposals to change it over time and there's inherent risk in that. And I think
and it's a different kind of use case as well.
Yeah. And yeah, it does a different thing, but it's also like there's kind of uncertainty baked into that by design. And that's definitely, I think that's definitely the case with Solana too, but they've, in the last year or so, like the quality of apps and developers and things that are being built there has gone up exponentially.
Yeah.
And for a new participant, that is a completely different experience than Ethereum. We had these culture discussions a year ago or 2 years ago now, where you had like the Bitcoin culture versus the Ethereum culture. Now you have the Solana culture versus the Ethereum culture. It's like just like generational technology companies, right? These things come along and some of them cement themselves at like a deeper level of infrastructure and hold their value and accrue value that way. And yeah, we've talked about the meme coin stuff on Solana. Let me pull up a dashboard for you.
People fast forwarding to this part.
Yeah. Well, while you're pulling it up, Jack, I was just going to say,
I'm not getting. Yeah, there's no endorsements here, but I'm going to show you this. You guys know what Pump.Fun is?
Yeah.
Pump.Fun.
So, Trung, do you know what this is?
It's a Dune dashboard.
No, so this is a Dune dashboard of Pump.Fun, which is basically it's like an app that lets you launch a meme coin for like $2.
It could be like the Tron coin or whatever.
Yeah. So you go on their Solana wallet, bang, it's done. And then they have this bonding curve where if enough people buy the coin, it gets launched and the liquidity pool gets deployed and then it gets traded like more openly. But this is like the incubator for meme coins, basically. This product has made $200 million of revenue. Those are the fees that the product makes since March this year. And in the last 24 hours, there's been 46,000 tokens launched.
That's insane.
You can buy, there's 46,000 tokens to be purchased right now.
But only in the last 24 hours launched.
Oh my goodness.
In the last 24 hours, yeah. And this is, you got a nice little cumulative. Oh, this isn't cumulative. Oh yeah, it is. Sorry. But little going exponential chart here. And, digital meth, boys, I like to refer to it as. And if you look at the dashboard of that thing, it is like a completely like the speed at which these things happen and then go away forever is like the technology gets faster. So these cycles just get compressed.
Wait, Jackson, hold on here. So in the last 24 hours, what's a graduated token?
It means, I think it's like 70K, like the market cap has to reach like 70K, 100K or something. And then it's like the liquidity pool succeeds.
No, so I saw something at the bottom there. So you're telling me in the last 24 hours, something was launched and its market cap reached $70 million?
Yeah, 60 million here, yeah.
Oh my God. Dude, what am I doing with my life? Every
I will
time,
say,
yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? This is not I don't know. My stance on this stuff is like, fun to play around with unless you're right. Like deeply in the like, you have proven to yourself that you have some ability to read this and do well. Like otherwise, I think there was some other statistic where like 98.9% of people lose money or something. 1% break even.
I've got it up here, chat. I was going to share it on the screen actually.
Find that.
It says, wait, 1 second. 1 second. It was a little bit less actually. More encouraging than I thought here. So at CryptoKermit _Kermit said, I don't know if this is true, but let's just, no investment advice. 60% of all meme coin traders lost money trading meme coins. 4.7 made no money. 24% made less than $100. So maybe if you combine the 60 and 24, 11.2 made more than 100. 3% made more than 1,000. So really, 97%. Made less than 1,000. Yeah. 0.5 made more than 10,000. So there you go.
I no longer regret
Yeah, I mean,
saying,
like,
I'm happy with my life
yeah,
choices.
yeah. Like, who is your counterpart? And that's like, for this stuff, it's like there are really sophisticated people, obviously, that are deploying analytics and understandings of this world much more than somebody sees something on Twitter and goes, "Oh, that looks like funny," or whatever.
It's like Citadel versus the Robinhood trade or whatever. Like doing. It's the person who's getting access to the information a millisecond before in traditional markets, but here it's actually available. You can do, what June Analytics is whatever is doing there. That stuff's available, but you need to be able to analyze that and do something.
If it was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think I'd be way deeper. I'd be way deeper into this. If it was,
you fried your brain.
Like in a different
you fried your brain, right?
Yeah,
you fried your brain last cycle.
It's kind of like the tools that people use to trade this stuff now. Like you have Telegram native wallets, and you'll get you can set the parameters for Telegram bots to say like, hey, this just launched, here's the name, here's the symbol, here's the distribution. So the things you read are like, if one wallet owns 50% of the supply of something, you're going to get destroyed. So there's all these parameters that people who spend a lot of time understanding this stuff can figure out and can tell at a glance, like this one has, less potential to just be a complete dildo chart.
It's high frequency trading, right? High frequency trading for meme coins. You're gonna get,
and they're not like high frequency in the sense that the asset or the contract itself will be defunct or never traded again. It's not like high frequency on one asset. It's like just there's 10,000 new coins every 2 hours.
The frequency ends.
Yeah.
The frequency goes really fast and then it's over in 36 hours.
Yeah, it's and I can see why it's younger, terminally online,
that don't have 3 kids,
20-year-olds. It's beyond my biological capacity to do it. To do it.
You can withstand that stress. And then
it's certainly taken over a ton of the crypto. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm trying to give a balance. Like this is, put $10 in a Phantom wallet and see for yourself how ridiculous it is to confirm it. It's definitely you have no discernible edge. Not a great idea.
Yeah.
And there's just even look at that chart, we're 9 months into this thing now, which is crazy to think that 3 million tokens later or whatever it is. And I'll just do one more thing on it because this is all over my feed as well, is there are this new phenomenon in this world is AI driven coins. So there's this thing called AI. Have you heard of this AI16Z?
Yeah.
Andreessen, tell us what happened there. That was crazy.
So somebody made this product. I think it's called DAOs.fun, which is these custodial entities that trade meme coins. So it's a token that has assets under management. It's like a derivative of a wallet that buys and sells other meme coins through some supposedly some AI algorithm. Who knows the extent to which it's operating autonomously. And I think Andreessen retweeted one of the posts of this token, and obviously
didn't he send a Bitcoin to it or something like that? Or was this something separate?
This is a different one. A different one he funded with $50K or something. Truth Terminal it's called.
Yeah.
And then it ends up buying this Goatsy coin. You remember that? You guys heard about this, no?
I just saw the name.
The market cap went to 300 million, right? The market cap went to 300 million.
Oh, it's more than that now, I think.
Okay, Jack, can you walk us through this one? Because we totally missed this. I'm sure listeners would love you to break this down.
Okay, I'll do my best because I'm trying to...
I just Googled
I'm trying to keep up with the stuff myself.
What it says here. It's ridiculous.
I'm trying to find the thing, man. There's 8,000 different versions of this thing. So basically, my understanding of it is somebody's developing this AI agent. There's going to be a Twitter account and it's going to be autonomous to the extent that you want to like fund it to do things on chain. That's my understanding of how it came about. It's like an experiment that someone's running. It's called Truth Terminal. And then I think either it was proposed or already existed, and it got Andreessen's attention. He said, I'll give you 50K to get started, or a Bitcoin or something around there. Sends it to some wallet. And then this thing proceeds to allocate all that capital into a coin called Goatsius Maximus, which the theory being,
that's so good. Hold on, Gladiator 2 is coming out this weekend, so that the Goatsius Maximus.
So my secondhand understanding of this is it's trained on like internet culture, and you know how much of early internet culture was these like horrendously grotesque memes. And don't look this up if you haven't seen it before, but Goatsy falls in that category.
That's what I was accidentally Googling. Thankfully, no images.
Yeah. Don't be Googling that. Put like Solana after it if you're gonna Google that. But so it buys the coin and then it just goes on to just like spamming about it on Twitter, right? So obviously tons of people are following its moves, copy trading, the bot, doing all this stuff. I'm trying to find the token here. Here we go. So the current market cap is 1.2 billion of Goatsius Maximus.
Oh my god, I just looked up Goatsy.
Sorry, yeah, I just put it in the chat, but I don't want to read that on the pod. But people, if they're really interested, they can go Google that. But
people, you do pause and do your DY, as Jack's hat used to say, DYOR, Dior. Definitely. Do your own research. Okay, continue, Jack.
Yeah,
sorry.
So
don't.
Yeah, you don't need to, man. You know everything you need to know from this conversation. If you're intrigued, yeah, I don't know. So obviously this narrative is now, you know, one thing occurs like that, and then that's the thing for a week, a month, whatever it might end up being. Right now, the speculation is, as all things are in these like early technology, the world is never going to be the same. There's going to be 1 billion AI coins every day. We're going to train them to do this, and that. Anyway, that's the speed at which the meta shifts is very significant right now. And
what is your analysis on the AI powered meme coin trading? Is it one of these things where, you know, first time cool, but then, you know, the tension's fractured? If you do 1 billion of them, it's no longer interesting.
It's funny. This one seems like this one has sort of cemented itself as the like original, right? And I think there's like there is the speculation always around that is like this will be like the Doge equivalent, you know, the thing that kind of cements the category and holds value for that reason. But I was so shocked to see that, honestly. 1.2 billion. This, like, I knew it was a couple hundred mil a few days ago, but that already puts it in this like different category in terms of how tradable it is, how deep the liquidity is, all of that stuff. But there's definitely like every other day there's a new take on that, like, and someone will build like the picks and shovels of that. And the speed at which it goes is just insane. Like you'll see somebody build like a custom thing like this where you have the chatbot and it you know, people follow the story for a couple of days and then someone will be like, hey, I built this like one-click sentient AI meme coin thing, like the pump.fun version of like commoditizing the production of the agent. So then they proliferate like crazy. It is really this like speed running of formats and
of finance.
The AI narrative is obviously so AI crypto. Like this was always there was always like ton of speculation 1-2 years ago, like how the two fit together. And this just the most entertaining outcome is just an AI bot like spamming profanity and talking about Goatsy on Twitter and running a coin up to $1 billion. Well, it wasn't some like, you know, really sophisticated IP and copyright reinforcement and licensing and, you know, all of the things that people thought it was going to be. It was just like, it's regurgitating like these I don't know, deeply human, disgusting parts of internet culture that began. And it depends how the model is trained too, right? It's like if you take like a Chat GPT or a Claude, and it kind of gives you this like corporatized, safe for work, very different take on it than
Rock will give you Gotius Maximus part 2.
I think he might. Yeah, I think some of this stuff was like Llama, like the open source models that can be manipulated
Zero
more.
Zero guardrails.
Yeah, so you can do more like nutty stuff with it. And a lot of the people that are experimenting with this are like, we're not in crypto originally. So these like AI researchers that build these things. And then when you unleash this thing on the internet, it starts looking around for these like internet native monetary exercises. Yeah.
Wait, Jack, let
Crazy,
me
man.
I wanna just add to what Jack said about the AI and crypto, because I think you'd mentioned it previously, Jack, maybe earlier this year, about Chris Dixon, right? Because Chris Dixon's written about it. Either Chris Dixon or Fred Wilson. They're saying like what Jack kind of mentioned was that crypto, in a world where you have AI generated content, infinite content, and it's hard to track down provenance, crypto provides the provenance, right? The idea of the blockchain and that existing. And then in a digital world, when you create scarcity and abundance, they come together. So AI is the abundance, cryptography is a scarcity with the blockchain. So that was what kind of Jack meant, that there was this high level, like really, it was like philosophically deep,
like
yin
fitting,
and yang. And then,
exactly.
like his point, you get Gotius Maximus, which is, for the love of God, if you Googled at this point, we're sorry. So I actually thought we could wrap up with this, because I know Jack's got a boogie. Did you guys read Vitalik Buterin on prediction markets? Amazing piece.
Oh, how long ago? Recently?
2 weeks ago. Yeah. You guys will appreciate this. So I'll send it to you. We're going to leave it in the show notes. But because he had, this is an AI and crypto thing. So let's focus on Polymarket. Last week we talked about Polymarket, which is international, can't trade in the US. And then actually the FBI, you might have seen the news, raided the CEO's office.
The best tweet of all time, that guy.
Yeah. So people didn't see it.
You said you found who this is. That
yeah,
that
I'll give the TLDR. So let me tee that up before I talk about it. So I'll tee this up, people. So last week, Polymarket, which famously had a French whale trader, he bet something like 80, ended up being about $50 million bet, made 80 million betting on.
You watched that video, by the way. You watched the video that Polymarket did of his like process.
No, I didn't just send it. That was amazing.
It's so good.
So TLDR.
Wait, is that of? Sorry, Trunk. Was that of the French trader you're talking about, or what? What was it?
Yeah. Let me So if I could do 30-second summary of it, it's like he talked about how he came to the conclusion that Trump was going to win early. He had this methodology called the neighbor vote.
The neighbor polling. Yeah.
Neighbor polling.
Yeah. Neighbor polling. So I don't know if he was the one that coined that, but the idea that who you're going to vote for, they say one thing, who's your neighbor going to vote for, was a way more accurate barometer for where an area was going to swing. And he saw that 2-3 months before.
And he paid for his own polling. He saw early polls of neighbor polling showing Trump. So he actually went to one of these big pollsters. They have NDA, didn't say who it was. And he like paid them to run these polls because he had such a fat position. I think he ended up doing 80. I think he ended up betting 50 to 60 mil and walked away with almost 100. So our initial podcast a couple of weeks ago, we said he made 50 on 30. Yeah.
But
it actually ended up being like 80 to 100
Polymarket is a crazy
50.
product, man. Ethereum L2, boys. Shout out.
There you go, right? So we had mentioned Kelshi, which is US-centric, or you can actually trade in US. But yeah, so to Jack's point, Shane Copland, the CEO, people thought it was political that the FBI raided his house, took his phone, took his electronics. But, they're not supposed to have US people bet. I guarantee people were using VPNs to use Polymarket, right? Like, of course they are. So that's what they kind of went after him for. I buy that more, that it was probably over that than the more political motivated, because whatever, he bet on Trump. Like, who cares, right? Like, you can do that. So this Vitalik article, though, I'm going to pitch it out to you guys. Love your thoughts on it. It was amazing. Obviously, Vitalik's an incredible writer, a founder of Ethereum. So he wrote about how he sees prediction markets, Kelshi, Polymarket in the future. And he calls this whole thing information finance, right? He's like, the people betting on these markets are sending signals, which is informative. And this is his exact, he had 2 great quotes. He describes Polymarket as a betting site for participants, a news site for everyone else. And then he goes, you can be more informed by reading the news and the charts than by reading either one alone. I mean, this is intuitive. People get this, right? Stock markets provide information. But here's where he said that he really flipped on Polymarket. Because this idea has been kind of floating around, prediction markets, betting markets on like event-driven things. He really changed his mind with you guys remember Venezuela had I'm doing air quotes here, an election earlier this year. Because you talk about election integrity, Venezuela, right? I'm doing air quotes. So he saw on Polymarket, it was basically, most commentators were like, well, Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, he's just going to rig this thing, right? But he saw on Polymarket that there's a 23% chance. People were betting on Polymarket. There's a 23% chance it would not be Nicolas Maduro. It would be the opposition party. And then Vitalik looked at that. He's like, wow, like that's some serious money being bet on this. Like it was in the 7 figures. And this is what he quoted. He said, ultimately, Maduro did stay in power. However, the markets clued me into the fact that this time the attempt to unseat Maduro was serious. There are huge protests, and the opposition played a surprisingly well-executed strategy to prove to the world how fraudulent the elections were. So he's like, this is providing information, and this is where he adds AI. This is where he takes this to the next level. So he calls this whole thing betting and the news side information finance. I mean, it's just repackaging the idea of like stocks give you information, right? But here, Bilal, imagine you wanted to do a market. Like, imagine the 3 of us want to bet how many kilometers will Bilal walk in Central Park today, right? What would the volume be on that market? Not huge, right? Like don't
underestimate the NIA crew here, Trump. But no.
All right, let's
be about $7.
Yeah, it's a $7 market, right? Yeah. So typically,
get Chipotle.
You can't go. How do markets provide information for people that can actually make money, right? Like sophisticated investors that can make money from a market. That's not a very attractive market. However, if you train AI bots, like Jack said with Goatsy and Maximus, something like that, you create AI agents and you train them to start picking off these random markets because they understand something about the world. An AI agent that maybe has a camera connected to Central Park or near, or like has something connected to like Fitbits and can see how much people, or Strava, they can guess if Bilal will hit that. Now you've trained an agent. You can actually start betting on $7 markets. Do you guys see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like gives you the scale. Yeah.
So Vitalik's like, he's like, it broke his mind because like AI can start making markets in things you would assume are tiny. A U.S. presidential election, we get that's going to be a big market. Super Bowl going to be a huge market. Bilal walking in Central Park, as much as we love our NIA listeners, probably a small market. However, if all of our NIA listeners are training AI agents and they just have them and they sick them on thousands of bets with small parameters, that's always learning. You see what I'm saying here, right? And so this is how he concludes it. Info finance is relatively difficult to make work when it must depend on humans to participate on each question. AIs greatly improve the situation, enabling effective markets even on small-scale questions. Many markets will likely have a combination of AI and human participants, especially as volume on specific questions suddenly switches from small to large. Bro, mind-blowing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there you go.
By the way, also, another cool thing about the this is tangential, but the comments on the Polymarket pages are insane because you can see the position of the person commenting. So it says like,
that's a great detail. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Info finance.
How many shares? Yeah. How many shares or how, what they bet on each outcome.
Don't tell me what you say. Show me your wallet. Exactly, we talk about, right? That's literally that in action. Wow. That's a good point.
There's this insane meme. I have to try and find it for you boys. Like people arguing over the election and they had like $4 each riding on the opposite sides of the market and the way they're talking to each other.
That's so good.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, that's
$3.50. Yeah. $3.50 would be 50% of the Bilal Central Park market, by the way.
Yeah. That's so good. I love the $4 one.
You know what?
Even if someone mocked that up, it would be brilliant.
Oh man, the other thing, I don't know if Vitalik talks about this, but there is this very weird ethical thing in prediction markets too, around like making events happen as a function of, you know, being able to directly speculate on them.
Oh yeah, you mean like you?
Like, didn't someone?
People were talking about that with the election too.
Market for Brian Johnson, like how long Brian Johnson's going to live.
Oh, dude, that's dark.
Oh God.
That's what I'm saying, though. There are ethical implications of these things. That's wild.
Yeah, when you can just create any market, you're right. Like, that is a very specific thing. But I was even saying in between
potential in that stuff, boys.
But that's a really extreme, terrible, you know, outcome, obviously. But in between is basically willing something to become real. Like, even the election, people were speculating when Trump was showing as a massive favorite versus Kamala at one point, versus the regular polls. There was obviously speculation that is that a way or betting that to kind of influence the headlines, essentially, because all the headlines were talking about Polymarket and stuff by that point. In the end, it was just some French guy. And the market is so small.
And the market is so small, weirdly, that like a $20 million buy
makes a difference.
Like making every media entity in America talk about it, which is insane.
Yeah. It's
you
crazy.
Think about like relative to what that would cost in campaign efforts to like change that many people's minds. Imagine what was like arbitrage there is insane.
Yeah, like what was the budget for the campaigns? Like $1 billion. What was it? Not billion. What was Kamala's?
I think Trump spent 300 million. She spent one and a half billion. They're saying that.
$1 billion.
Dude, dude, this is the thing. People, I'm not gonna get political here. People are talking about like Elon dropping $1 million a day.
Information. Dude, what is it? Information finance. It's not politics.
It's not politics, bro. Do you know how much money the Dems spent? It was outrageous. But anyways, man, go ahead.
The best one was the Call a Daddy set, cost $100,000 or something.
Oh, man. Incredible.
Man,
I was like, I've done enough podcasts to know that is not.
You know what though? You know what though's funny is like, it's like too unsophisticated to even be a money laundering thing. It's just morons. I feel like. You know what I mean? It's like there's like 5 layers of consultants that are billing $1,000 an hour, and then like, dude, you're in New York and you need to get this thing, and there's a $3,000 rush fee for the fucking plant or something.
Yeah,
like they just would have been like complete idiots.
That's exactly it. The plants. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's like instead of just renting. And I get it. Obviously, there's security and stuff, but it was definitely. I mean, that was just one example because there's actually something you can easily estimate. All right, that's not going to cost $100,000 to actually do. You could do that in way less. But in a rush, you're not trying to save money there. You got $1 billion there to spend. So that's obviously what's going on. All right, anything else on that?
There's a bookmark I wanted to pull up on that, but
let's pull it up. This will be the last note.
No, this has been great. This has been chock-a-block.
Old school.
This is NA 2021 vibes right now.
Man, my bookmark folder is so dense, boys. It might be a few.
Do you just do bookmarks in Chrome, you mean, or is this like Twitter?
No, in Twitter bookmarks.
Yeah.
Oh, they're functionally useless for me at this point, man. I'll just pick. I have so many.
Anyway, I'll give you the TLDR of it from my memory, which could be a little bit off, but somebody wrote this thread about the communication strategy of Democrats versus Republicans. And essentially, the core difference is the Democratic platform is one to many, and the Republican is many to many. It's like decentral. Instead of a top down, like here's the talking point, it's like this like disseminated bottom up set of talking points. And the internet as a medium, getting to where it is, just completely blew the lid off that. Right, where you think like a Beyonce appearance is going to sway 5 million people. Like might even have the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Because people are going to find out you paid for that and call bullshit on it, basically. And like the media apparatus that obscured that fact for many years before, the people that are still making those decisions aren't internet native in the same sense. It's so articulate the way it was written. I'll have to try and find it and put it in the show notes.
Please do.
Like a fundamentally different understanding of how media works. And obviously that results in you spending a lot less money to reach a lot more people.
Man, unbelievable to have Jack back. That's my summary
Jack
here.
absolutely smashed it here. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I will say, I did say earlier, just to round out all the bullishness, we don't have time to talk about it properly, but Binance are set to launch a stable coin with 19.55% APY. Boys, does that sound familiar? Because they're literally the same yield as Anchor Protocol.
We got out of the pen, mate, and he's doing the 20% APY.
Isn't that ridiculous? Anyway, I'm just keeping it real because, I don't want, I got burnt hard, as you guys know. And
is it speculation or is it's happening?
I'm not sure, man. Everything I'm reading is on Twitter, so assume it's not real. This is all vibes, no facts, people. We're back. Old times.
We should put that at the front. Put that in the front of the podcast.
Jack, great to have you back. Trung, pleasure as always. Let's cut it off here, boys. We'll see you guys next week. Let us know what you think of this on YouTube. You can comment on Spotify as well nowadays, so hit us up there. And we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week. Peace.
Cheers. Bye-bye.